You did everything right. You put in the hours, mastered the skills, and played by the rules. Yet somehow you still watched someone less talented get the promotion, secure the funding, or win the praise. It is easy to feel bitter when that happens. But the frustration comes from a false premise, the belief that the world is a meritocracy. The reality is that modern society operates exactly like an old-world royal court, a hidden, calculating environment governed by invisible dynamics. You might think you can just put your head down and do your work, but you cannot opt out of this hierarchy. As long as you interact with other human beings, you are on the board, playing the game. To survive, you have to let go of the comforting childhood idea of fairness. Instead, you must adopt a purely rational, unemotional approach to navigating the people around you. There is a manual for this reality, a blueprint that maps out exactly how these power dynamics function behind closed doors. Mastering this system requires you to understand how leverage flows in three directions: upward to your superiors, laterally to your peers, and inwardly toward your own self-control. But before you can trace those lines of leverage, you have to unlearn the most dangerous lie you've ever been told, the idea that your raw talent is your greatest asset. When looking upward at those in charge, the standard advice is simple: work the hardest and shine the brightest to prove your worth. In 1661, the French finance minister Nicolas Fouquet tested this theory. He threw the most lavish, spectacular party in the world to celebrate the completion of his chateau, intending to prove his indispensable value to King Louis XIV. The next day, the king had Fouquet arrested. He spent the last 20 years of his life in solitary confinement. Fouquet had mistakenly flaunted his wealth and charm, which poked holes in the king's vanity and triggered a catastrophic sense of insecurity in the monarch. To soothe his ego, Louis redirected the treasury's wealth and hired Fouquet's own architects to build an estate that would assert his absolute superiority over his former minister, the Palace of Versailles. Compare that disaster to the Italian astronomer Galileo. Like Fouquet, Galileo had a brilliant mind, and he desperately needed funding and protection from wealthy patrons to continue his work. When he discovered the 4 moons of Jupiter, he didn't boast about his own genius. Instead, he dedicated the discovery to the ruling Medici family, claiming the 4 moons represented the 4 Medici brothers. He essentially branded the cosmos with their family crest. In one stroke, Galileo secured a lifetime appointment. The rule for upward power is clear: never outshine the master. Your job is to fade into the background and find ways to artificially heighten the master star's intensity. Looking laterally, at your peers, the instinct is to build a tight inner circle. We are told to surround ourselves with loyal friends, to establish a secure base of power. In the 9th century, the Byzantine Emperor Michael III staked his future on this exact logic. Out of pure love and gratitude, he elevated his peasant best friend, Basilius, to the highest ranks of the empire, eventually making him head of the army. Michael assumed the wealth and status would cement Basilius's loyalty forever. Instead, it bred entitlement. Basilius grew envious of the emperor's remaining power and eventually assassinated his former best friend to take the throne for himself. Now look at Emperor Sung of China, who took the exact opposite approach to securing his reign. Instead of executing his defeated rebel enemies, Sung invited them to his palace, pardoned their crimes, and gifted them vast estates and titles. Sung understood a difficult truth about human psychology. A friend expects ever-increasing favors and easily seethes with jealousy. But a spared enemy, suddenly granted a reprieve from the executioner, has everything to prove and will go to the ends of the earth to repay that clemency. When managing lateral power, remember that gratitude is a heavy burden, while revenge is a pleasure. You have far more to fear from your friends than from your enemies. This brings us to the inward flow of power and the modern obsession with authenticity. We are taught that total transparency builds trust and shows good character. But in a competitive hierarchy, wearing your heart on your sleeve simply provides a highly visible target for your rivals. If everyone knows exactly what you want and what you feel, they know exactly how to maneuver around you. You must develop a smokescreen. This is the tactical use of unpredictable actions and terrifyingly scarce words to guard your inner thoughts. When you restrict your informational output, humans naturally feel uncomfortable. To fill the silence, insecure opponents will start talking, rushing to explain themselves, and in the process, they will hand over their own intentions and weaknesses. The rule for inward power is to always say less than necessary. Keeping people off balance and in the dark makes your reputation completely unassailable. Synthesizing these rules reveals one stark reality: power is completely amoral. The hierarchy does not care if you are a good or bad person. It does not measure your moral purity. It only responds to the weight of your leverage, the calculations you make, and how carefully you navigate the vanity of others. You are left with a choice. You can remain a passive participant, complaining about how unfair the world is when it doesn't reward your hard work, or you can actively recreate yourself. Recreating yourself means refusing to accept the limits society tries to place on you. It means forging an identity that commands attention, where you dictate the terms of your own image, rather than letting others define it for you. Guard your reputation with your life. Step inside this cerebral blueprint and treat every interaction from this moment forward as a calculated chess match.